Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. I hope you can all hear me. Some may be sorting out their audio. We're just going to wait a few minutes just for the kind of last stragglers to join, and then we'll go ahead and start the webinar. Okay, perfect. So it looks like we have everyone in. So we're just going to start ahead with the webinar. So like I said before, thank you, everyone, ever so much for joining us. Like I said, if you do have any questions, pop them in our questions chat box, and we'll be happy to answer them later. And then if we have time, if we don't have time, we'll still follow up with you and try and answer your questions as much as we can. So first things first, we're just going to cover some introductions. So my name's Will Fox. Some of you may know me as Will Holmes, but that is a story for another day, I'm afraid. I've been with SafetyTek for just over 3 years now, and it's been really quite fantastic to see how our platform has evolved through the years and helped so many people digitally transform their safety programs. And it's quite exciting to actually take you through some features of the platform today that goes beyond simply just replacing safety forms. So for those of you who are brand new to SafetyTek, we are a health and safety management platform. We focus on simplifying workplace safety processes, whether that be sharing safety forms or conducting audits of incidents or tracking training. We're all about helping you engage your workers in workplace safety, which creates an overall positive safety culture in your organization. And of course, we use state-of-the-art technology to do this. So today's agenda. We'll quickly go over why you need to track your safety performance and the different types of metrics. Then I'll briefly discuss the 8 key safety metrics you should be tracking every month. And then for the fun part, we'll go through the demo of the product of SafetyTek and see how you can actually track these within SafetyTek. Okay, so as a safety professional, you probably have lots of different safety programs going on to make sure that your team is able to do their job safely and go home the same way they came in, which is the most important part. So your safety programs also make sure your team stays productive and is not disrupted too much if and when an incident does take place. So an incident can be costly, and not having the proper precautions in place can cost a lot too. So you really don't want to be one of those businesses that end up paying millions in fines, legal fees, and worker compensation. So you always want to make sure that what you are doing is working in the best way possible. Having all the right safety information lets you know any trends that you need to follow up on. This could be, for example, how many people are reporting sick, which is especially critical during the height of COVID-19, where you needed to make sure more people were not going to get infected and you needed to plan shifts accordingly or make arrangements to work at home if it was possible to help keep everyone healthy and safe. Which now, at this moment in time, is probably quite handy to track how many of your workers are vaccinated, when is their booster, something that you might want to keep an eye on. You can also make sure that whatever program you do have is actually making an impact. Which ones are your workers actually participating in, and if not, make adjustments accordingly. You can see how to improve them so that you are making the most of your time and efforts. You certainly don't want to be chasing around and following up on programs that are simply not making a difference at all. There are two types of safety metrics that you can gather information on. The traditional ones are the lagging indicators, which is the historical data on what has happened and what has been happening in your work site. So you evaluate how many incidents took place, how many near misses, how many days away from work were recorded. These are typically what's required for OSHA compliance, and you want these to be as close to zero as possible. So high TRIR, or in other words, total recorded incident rate, and DART, which is days away from work rate. These scores can trigger targeted OSHA inspections, which can lead to significant fines and penalties that can really add up. So TRIR and DART can sometimes impact the cost of insurance premiums too, which obviously we want to keep to a minimum. And this is definitely one type of metric you want to keep a very close eye on. Leading indicators, on the other hand, are all about what you are doing to make sure an incident doesn't occur in the first place. So on this webinar, it's these metrics that we'll be focusing mainly on. What kind of metrics can you start tracking that could make the most significant impact on your incident rate? So we've identified 8, so let's jump straight into them. The first one is Toolbox Talks frequency. Toolbox talks are a great way to quickly go over areas of concern or general safety tips specific to your worksite. The frequency of how often you conduct these talks has a direct impact on incidents. Data actually shows organizations are able to reduce incidents as much as 85% if you conduct them daily. This is definitely something you would want to do and also track how it has impacted incidents in your organization. So for our second part, we have worker participation. To prevent incidents, every single member of your organization needs to be involved and actively participating in your safety program. So that means every team member at every level must know what the company's safety goals are so they can contribute adequately. When measuring worker participation, a few key safety metrics to track each month include number of safety meetings or toolbox talks attended, which we'll cover today, amount of training courses completed, total inspections conducted and submitted, and then completed corrective actions. So these are just 4 that we've pointed out, but there are more. Next up, we have safety program performance reviews. So safety programs performance reviews should be completed with all workers twice per year, and they are a great way to create accountability for the workers. They also allow management to review what is working and, more importantly, what isn't working. Understanding where safety is breaking down is an essential part of implementing a thriving safety culture. Reviewing how many incidents took place, how many near misses were submitted, and what survey results from field staff look like highlights overall workforce engagement. All of these are key and need to be reviewed regularly with your workers. And then we have corrective action completion velocity. So knowing how many corrective actions are created and closed in a month is fantastic, but doesn't show a complete picture. So one question you can ask yourself is, do you have aging corrective actions that have been open for weeks or months? The corrective action process is a vital process that affects all control points in a company's safety program. Measuring the average time to complete corrective actions can expose potential flaws in every step of corrective action process. So the step from creation, so when it was issued, to acknowledging or the receipt of the corrective action, following up, completion and verification. If any of these steps is weak, it will show in this metric. And then these next 2 steps are pretty straightforward. So staying on top of which members of your team have valid training certificates, which ones will expire, tracking these show that you're taking a proactive approach to workplace safety training and can help you stay compliant, which we'll definitely cover. We'll cover all of these in the demonstration pretty shortly. So we definitely want to stay on top of employee training. Similarly, with non-compliant PPE use, you can monitor in the field the proper and improper use of PPE. So track how many observations were made each month and how many of those observations were deemed unsatisfactory, obviously leading to, is this piece of equipment getting worse? Is it staying at the same level? Do I need to take action on this piece of equipment? So staying on top of all of your PPE. Incidents and near misses. So these are the lagging factors you need to be monitoring. So as I mentioned earlier for compliance, once you've established your baseline, you can then contemplate putting checks in place to improve these metrics. And then finally, we have safety program goal setting. So measuring how many of your workers set a safety goal every month. You don't need to measure their goal specifically, just whether or not they set one. So the simple act of a worker having to think of a goal, decide what to measure, and decide if it was achieved or has failed is enough to gain all of this metrics incident reducing benefits. So it's a worker thinking about what their goal is. What are they going to do to try and make sure they're as safe as can be? Okay, so before we jump into the demo where we'll show you how you can track these metrics in SafetyTek, I'd like to just run a little poll to find out how many of these you're currently tracking right now. So how many of these 8 metrics do you currently track? So please feel free to answer that question. Okay, perfect. So it looks like the most common answer is more than half. So we definitely want to show you how we can actually track the rest and help create a plan on how we track those. And for those that are already tracking these metrics, how are you currently tracking them? Is it paper? Is it a different system? We want to help you in your management in your way of actually tracking these and showing these. So hopefully we can actually show you some pretty awesome visuals, some pretty awesome features that we can use to help. Okay, the summary. So this brings us to the end of our webinar. I just want to kind of reiterate a few key points here. It is very important that you keep a constant eye on your safety metrics. It's not something you should only look at once or twice a year. Leading indicators are just as important as lagging indicators to actually help prevent incidents from ever happening. And getting leading indicator data in real time goes a long way. The only way this is even possible is through actual digital safety solutions like SafetyTek, just as I showed you. And if you were only using paper forms or non-safety specific software like spreadsheets, which we talked about a little earlier as well, an email, it would not only be time consuming, but would require that much more effort to put together and piece together and get meaningful results and data and insights into your safety program. Once you have all your reports, it becomes much easier to also showcase your progress to not only upper management, but also your workers, which creates more accountability and a sense of teamwork to build a positive safety culture. I'm sure your teams will be very happy to know that the efforts they made actually help and make a difference. So if you'd like to get started with real-time data to keep your team safe and save your organization some money, get in touch with our team right away and we'll be happy to help set you up for future success. I know that I think we have a bit of time for some questions, which I think we've had a few in already. So if anyone does have a question, please feel free to pop it in the question box there. We'll try and get through them. So we have one question here. Does SafetyTek have a library of toolbox talks that can be used? Yes, absolutely. So in that, in the Toolbox Talk feature that I showed you, the one that's about to be released, that will have a full library of Toolbox Talks for you to pick from. So you can choose any that you need to. You can schedule them every single day or specific days in the week, month, and they will go out to your workforce and they'll get notified, and then you'll have that report on who's, the answer, results, everything you need to just to have that visual on Toolbox Talks and their engagement. We have another question. Can I get real-time data even without internet access on site? Yes, absolutely. So our mobile app our mobile app can work offline. So when your workers in the field and they're submitting their forms, they're doing corrective actions, everything they need to, they'll be able to enter that data. And then once they've reconnected or reconnected to a data connection, it then syncs to our platform, or it then syncs to the server. But everything is then saved on that local device and it's not lost. It will then just submit once it reconnects with the original date and time, things like that, which then obviously goes to your submissions and your statistics. Okay, another question is, okay, new features to be released. Yes, so we have the new Toolbox Talk that is going to be released sometime this month. So by the end of the month, you'll see the option for Toolbox Talks, which is then going to be accessible by anyone, and you don't have to have a full SafetyTek kind of subscription to buy that. It is a standalone option if you would just like that as well. Okay, perfect. I think that's the end of the questions. There might be any more coming in. If there are any more questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. We're more than happy to answer anything that's coming in. But I just want to thank you all very much for joining us today. We'll be sharing the slides and the recording of this with you all later today. So look out for that in your inbox soon. So again, thank you all very much for joining and have a great rest of your day.